Hey guys, what's going on? It's Colin here again. Today I'm back with another lawnmower. This one's quite a beast. It's a Craftsman, but it's just physically big. It's got a 6.5 horse Briggs engine on it that claims to be ready start with a 21-inch cut. And I think it's from 2005 based on the numbers. But in this video I want to do something a little different. I wanted to, rather than doing like just a regular will it run video, I wanted to do more of like an instructional video, like how to fix your lawnmower kind of thing. And just kind of share some of the tips and tricks that I've gained over the years of doing this, and also, you know, just show you guys how to fix a mower that's been sitting for a while or won't start. So anyways, let's dive right in. Alright, so whenever I get a mower that I'm not sure where it's from, like this one was given to me, but I really don't have any backstory on it. I always check these two things first, that being the oil. Make sure that there's actually oil in it. You can see there, that oil really isn't all too bad. Hopefully it's focusing here. It's a little bit, you can see how shaky my hands are when it's amplified by this stick too. You can see that's actually pretty good. The oil looks pretty clean and it's within the operating range, so that's good. I've definitely seen engines with no oil and very dirty oil before. And the other thing I like to do is go around here and check the gas tank, see if there's anything in it. In which case there's not. Give a little sniff test. Doesn't smell like old gas. You'll know old gas when you smell it. Even if you've never smelled it before, you can tell that it's old. In that case, I like to just, you know, compress the lever here and pull it over. And yeah, you can feel, or I can feel at least, it's definitely got compression. It's also starting to move on me, so I think there's something wrong with the self-propel. But that's good, so it's got compression. So those are the first three basic things I always check. So now let's start taking things apart. Alright guys, so the next thing I like to do is I like to check for spark. And the way I do that is I pull the plug. Now, some people tell you to just get a spark tester, but I prefer not to use those because A, they cost money even if it's not much, and B, they don't tell you whether they have a bad plug or not. And then also C, by looking at the plug, you can often tell the condition of the, or at least how clean the inside of the engine is. So you can see this one here. It's a little carboned up, but nothing really too bad. But I pulled one out of a mower yesterday that there was so much crap here that you couldn't even tell the electrode from the rest of the plug. So then I knew I had to pull the head because it was super carboned up in there. And I'll throw a picture in here of what that head looked like. It was pretty bad. So I just pulled this thing apart because it's got a stuck valve, as you can probably see there. And look at all the carbon buildup on this head. Holy crap. I've never seen anything quite like that before. But to test for spark, simply just insert that plug back into the wire and then hold the plug up against something metal, so something grounded, and then you just pull the engine over. So I'm going to set this up and I'll be right back. Alright, so I'm holding the plug on with a bungee cord for now. Maybe one of you guys will be so good as to tell me whether it has spark. If not, I'll just look at the viewfinder on the camera here. So here we go. I don't know if you or I could be able to see that. It was bouncing around so much. It seems that the self-propel is stuck on, so every time I pull this mower, it wants to move on me. Alright, so I'm going to go back, review that footage, and see if we actually have spark or not. Alright, so I just looked back, and this thing has nice strong spark, which is good. So, I'm going to move on to the next step, but while I'm taking this bungee cord off, if your mower, or any small engine really, anything I'm going to show you in this video is applicable to most small engines. So if your small engine doesn't have spark, there are two things to check for, assuming it's new. Newer than 1982-ish, that is. Basically what happened in 82 is they eliminated points in condenser ignition and went to solid state. So that simplifies things a bit for repairs. Anyways, if your mower or small engine doesn't have spark, check the kill wire. Now in mowers, that's often somewhere over here with this flywheel brake, the thing that the handle controls. There's usually a little tab over here that gets grounded out. On other small engines, it's basically wherever your off switch is, there's going to be a little black wire. Make sure that's you can disconnect that. Make sure it doesn't touch any metal. Then pull it over again, see if you have spark. If not, then you have a bad coil, which is under here by the flywheel. Alright, so now that we know it has oil in it, that's good. and it has spark. What I'm going to go ahead and do here is tilt the mower back, maybe, hopefully in shot here. Maybe not. Hold on. There we go. And I'm going to dump a little gas right down into that plug hole. Starter fluid works too. Doesn't take much, just a little dribble. And I'm just going to go ahead and put the spark plug back in. Make sure it's tight because they will loosen up with the vibrations. Put the plug wire back on, and we're going to wheel it outside and see if it starts. Alright, so I've wheeled it outside. Let's see if she'll go. Hey, she's a runner. Cool. Definitely have to fix that self-propelled though. It's trying to run away from me. Alright, so now that we've heard it run, and we would know that there aren't any real issues, like it's not knocking or vibrating or anything that would make you want to look into something else. If it's knocking or vibrating, then it's probably not worth putting a whole lot of effort into. And little vibrations are alright, but if it's really vibrating, then that could be a bent blade or bent crank or other bad stuff. So if it had that, then I probably wouldn't even be putting the effort into fixing this thing all the way. So anyways, let's move on to cleaning out the carburetor. Alright, so basically on most Briggs & Stratton engines that look like this, your carburetor is down on the side here underneath some of these plastic pieces. So you take that off, take the air cleaner off here, which is usually just held on by one flathead screw. There. Another good thing to check is the condition of the air cleaner. If it's really bad or dirty, you could try cleaning it, but if it's got like holes in it, like a mouse was living in there, then you're going to want to get a new one. Especially for a lawnmower where there's always dust and crap being kicked up. That just folds down. Wow, that air cleaner is really nice, so I'm not even going to do anything to that. This mower in general is actually pretty clean. I bet it would probably run if I put gas in it, but we're not going to try that. I'm just going to clean it out first anyways. So, on these particular mowers, I believe it's a size 8 metric screws that fits. There we go. There's 3 screws, one here, one here, one here, that will pull off this shroud here. I just got a little ratchet set here that's assorted metric sizes. Go ahead and pull these off. Now there are different setups obviously based on your engine, but these are pretty common engines, so there's a good chance it will be similar to this. But basically we're trying to pull the carburetor off so we can pull it apart and clean it up. Alright, so the 3 screws are out. This thing is loose. The only thing that's holding it is this little crankcase breather here. Try not to get too much dirt inside the carburetor. So, here's our carburetor down here. I believe size 10. Yeah, size 10. There's 2 bolts on either side. But actually, before we get to that, this is your fuel line here. There's a clamp here you have to compress and slide over. Just a pair of pliers will do that, and you can shimmy the fuel line off. If your engine has gas in it still, and there's no shut-off valve, what you can do before doing this to prevent gas from leaking everywhere is you can take a pair of vice grips and clamp down on that fuel line, and that will squish it and no gas will get through. So now we got the gas line off. I'm going to go ahead and pull this carburetor off. There's just 2 screws, one on either side on these model engines. Of course, the process may differ based on your engine, but basically want to detach it from the intake manifold or the engine. Just be careful when you're doing this. You don't want to just yank it right off, because there's a bunch of delicate linkages and springs and things on here that you don't want to break. Alright, so this particular mower is a automatic choke mower. Some mowers have primer bulbs, others don't even have either. Just got to take this thing off first. I don't usually use pliers like this, but I don't have a size that will fit this. Just be careful when if you do use pliers that you don't strip the head off, because then you'll never get it off. And again, there is a spring holding this lever, and you don't want to stretch that out too much, otherwise it won't run right. So just be careful. See, I'm kind of holding it in the area it's supposed to be in, not like pulling it all the way out here. Alright, so the choke mechanism is off. Now we have the throttle, and there's a linkage here that has a little Z-bend. So the linkage comes across like this, then down, then over. So you kind of just have to slowly just kind of twist the carburetor around and get that off of there. Because again, there's a spring right here that if you stretch it out, then it won't run right. So there's your carburetor. Most newer carburetors look somewhat similar to this. So I'm going to go ahead and head over to the bench and we'll take this thing apart. That trick never gets old. Alright, so I got the carburetor up on the bench here. And basically, with these particular carburetors, there's really only one bolt on it that you can take apart. That's this bottom one here. It's usually 1/2 inch. So go ahead and just crack that free. And this bolt on the bottom is not just any old bolt. This also happens to be the main jet of the carburetor. So these can get clogged up, which I'll show you here in a second. So that's the top of your jet there. You can see there's all sorts of crap on here already. And those two side holes, you got to make sure they're very clear. But we're going to clean them out anyways, even though they are. So this bowl is a little bit stuck on here. You can give them a little persuasion if you want, but they do dent easily, so be careful. But just kind of twist and wiggle a little bit and it'll usually pop free. This one's actually pretty clean. A lot of times you'll see a bunch of crap in the bottom. But when you're freeing that up, just be careful about this gasket on the side here. They do tear sometimes. Alright, so we got the bowl off. Here's your floating needle and stuff. This carburetor is actually really clean. Like I said, I think this mower would have ran if I just put gas in it, but it's better to be safe than sorry. So to start here, basically you just pop this pin out. It should slide out pretty easily. Then you can lift the float and needle out. Just be careful not to lose any of these little parts. And that's about as far apart as this one's coming. So in terms of actually cleaning these things, you have a couple options. My favorite is the chem dip followed by compressed air. So basically what I like to do is I like to let the stuff soak in the chem dip for, I don't know, 1/2 hour to an hour. And let it get all clean, and then I'll take it with compressed air and blow out all the ports and jets and everything. If you don't have chem dip, you could go buy carburetor cleaner at like auto parts stores. They have it, and that will do an alright job. But I've also found that just compressed air works really well, and I'm talking like an air compressor, not one of those little duster cans. And just shoot compressed air into all these little holes and, you know, like pores and jets and things, and that also generally works pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and use the chem dip method, and I'll be back in a second. Alright, so let's go ahead and put these pieces in the chem dip. Just realized I never mentioned what pieces actually are going to go in, so I figured I'd better show you. So I'm just going to head ahead and pop this lid off, just being extra stubborn today. Come on. There we go. Alright, so this has this nice convenient little tray. So to put in the chem dip is going to be the actual carburetor body, the main jet screw thing, and I'm going to put the needle in, and the float too. If the bowl is really dirty and crappy inside, I would go ahead and throw that in. And the only reason I'm putting the float in is to make sure it still actually floats. Make sure there's not like a hole in it or anything. You could probably get away without doing the needle, but I've had it a couple times where the needle gets really sticky with old gas and then it doesn't work quite right. But the thing you definitely don't want to put in there is this, the little float pin, because that can fall through and you'll probably never see it again. So I'll be back in about an hour. Alright, so it's time to take this stuff out of the chem dip now. Don't want to leave it in there too long, it might dissolve. No, I'm just kidding. Alright, so good news, our float is still floating. Try and catch that in the dish on our way up here. I always try and get as much of this back in the container as possible. So that's just that much more I can use next time. Putting down some paper towels or something might be a smart idea too. So now, I'm going to show you the compressed air method. This would work even if you didn't have chem dip, but it works very well in tandem with chem dip also. And basically, just blow everything out. So I always use the compressed air to just blow the residue that chem dip leaves off, like, which I, blah blah blah. So I just use the compressed air to blow the residue off that chem dip leaves. Now I'm going to show you where I actually would do even if I didn't have chem dip and all I was cleaning with is compressed air. Starting in here, there's 2 holes in here. And I always go down through here. Then there's a couple holes in the front. And straight through the back. Under the little there. There. And just all over. Also, importantly, in the bottom here, through the top first, then through each side. And blow off the float. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this thing back together and we'll see if this thing runs. Alright, I changed my mind. I figured I should probably show you guys how to reassemble because there is a certain order of operations to things. So with this particular design, I always start by hooking the needle in the float and then just kind of guiding that back down into its seat. Once that's in there, go ahead and take the little pin here, slide it through, make sure everything is nice and aligned. That should just sit there loosely, held in by friction. Now if the float's adjustable, you want to make sure that it's pretty level or flat. This one's not, so there's not much I can do about it. Go ahead and put the bowl back on, and then put the main jet back in. Make sure that washer's still on there too. And be very careful not to cross thread it, because that will break, pretty much ruin your carburetor. This one's being particularly annoying. There we go. Go ahead and make sure the ratchet's going the right way, and then use it. Make sure it's nice and snug, and let's go throw this thing back on the lawnmower. Alright, so I'm back down here at the mower. First thing you want to do is hook up the throttle linkage, so that's kind of going to be the opposite of how you took it off. Just kind of same deal, kind of wiggle the carburetor around in and onto the Z-bend like that. Then I'm going to screw in this choke screw here for the automatic choke. Just make sure when you do this that the little pin here sits in that fork, because otherwise it won't work. Which I have done before, and it was very confusing to see why it wasn't running right. I'm going to go ahead and screw this back in. See if I actually have the right size here. Might make things a little easy. Nope. Alright, so that's done. Now I'm going to go ahead and stick this back on. There's a little tube with an O-ring. You want to just make sure that that lines up correctly. And you can go ahead and put the 2 screws back in that hold it on. I like to start both of them, then screw them, tighten them actually down. That way it keeps everything in line. Alright, so those bolts are tightened down, so I'm going to go ahead and stick the fuel line back on there to kind of wiggle that on. Then grab those pliers and make sure you put this clip back, because that acts as like a hose clamp and it will keep it from leaking. And with no shut-off valve, you definitely don't want it leaking. And finally, is this backing plate here. Make sure this gasket's still on there, and you got to feed that nipple into that tube first. So kind of just stick that in there. Then you can line this back up with the 3 screws. It's very easy to forget this third one here, but it does help. Alright, put the air filter back on. That just hinges up, and then there's one flathead screw here, or socket if you so choose. I actually and finally, we have this little plastic piece which kind of hooks down under there and screws in up here. Cool, you're done. Now we're going to go ahead and put gas in this and see if it works. Alright, so I just dumped gas in it and on it. Let's go ahead and see if it starts. It's trying to walk away with me from the self-propel being stuck on, but I'll fix it after I see it run. Oh, almost. Come on. Alright guys, one last tip for this video, and this has to do with cables, like the cable that is for your handlebars, or if you have self-propelled you'll have cables for that. If they're stuck like this one, you can see it's not moving, I use penetrant spray. It doesn't have to be WD-40, but that's what I have here. And I just try and spray as much as possible down that tube, and then just kind of work the cable. But the trick is that you got to make sure you do both ends. So I've popped the other end open on the mower, as you can probably see down there. And I'm going to go do the same thing on the other side, and I'm going to work it back and forth, grab it with a pair of pliers on that end and pull it, and then pull it on this end, and we'll see if we can free it up. Well, I'm going to call that one a success. It starts on the first pull every time now, so that's pretty good. I'm just going to go ahead and give this thing a bath at some point. But that's not part of this video. So, and yes, I do have to fix this. Right now, I'll call that race car mode. I think to fix this, all I'm going to do, I've never really seen anything like that before, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to knock that indent out a little further so it doesn't slide so easily. But anyways, guys, thank you all for watching. If you liked what you see, hit the little like and subscribe buttons. Leave a comment if you have one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. You didn't think I would actually end the video without power washing it, did you? If you did, that was pretty silly. Assuming my power washer will start. It does help to turn the kill switch to the on position. That's a little better.